We're going to talk about James William Nixon II and some of the spiritual experiences he had in his life. Just prior to his father's death, his father was on Mount Trumbull, and he had this need to have the two boys go to Silver Reef to take a load of lumber and to get supplies so that they would be able to survive on Mount Trumbull. Now, he was 14 years of age, and his brother was 12. But his father asked him if he thought that he was capable, and he, of course, told his father yes, that he could do it. He had been used to working with oxen. So off they went with a load of lumber to Silver Reef. And as they were coming down the Hurricane Hill, why the lumber shifted, and he didn't feel that his brother was capable of bringing the ox team down by himself. So he had the ox team, and his brother was sitting on the wagon. And the lumber shifted, and one of a large board hit George in the head, and he was bleeding profusely. And he was very concerned about whether his brother was going to live or not. And he remembered his father telling him that be sure that to say his prayers. And so he knelt there with his hands on his brother's head and asked his Heavenly Father to bless his brother, and then that he would survive and not die. And after he got through the prayer, the bleeding had stopped. And so he washed his face, and they proceeded on to their destination. As they were just outside of Leeds, a man by the roadside asked him where his father was. And he said, well, my father is ill back at Mount Trumbull. And he says, well, where's the man that came with you? And he says, well, there is no man, there's just the two of us. And he couldn't believe that these two boys had brought these 3 carts of lumber from Mount Trumbull to Silver Reef. And that was just one instance. Then after his father died, he went back to Silver Reef to get employment. And he first started by helping a man burn coal. Not coal, wood for charcoal for the mining industry. But he was very upset about the man that he was working for because he used foul language and was not what he was used to being around, so he quit. And one of the things that he was able to do after this employment, he was able to get employed as not as a Pony Express rider, but as a pony mail rider. And he would go from St. Thomas, which was down on the Muddy in Nevada, and he would take the mail down to Mineral Park, which is just this side of Kingman, Arizona. And he would alone be on this mule with the mail at 16 years of age, going through this desert and going to these mining camps.
Is this James?
This is James William II. In 2008, my husband and his brother Reed decided they were going to recreate this trip. And they went down, and they've done a documentary. I want to talk to you about that later. But Richard was 78 and Reed would have been 81. And here's these two men in this truck going down into no man's land. And they said that as they, on this one road in particular, to going over to the El Dorado camps, there used to be these camps along the El Dorado, mining camps. And Richard said there was only maybe 2 inches on each side of the truck as they went through. It was really a harrowing experience for them. But they learned a lot about what their grandfather had experienced as he rode the pony mail. In his autobiography, he tells of meeting people on desert and giving them water in order to survive. And then he going on and getting his water at a later distance. But he had a lot of experiences in his employment as a pony mail, not the Pony Express, but the pony mail rider from St. Thomas down to Mineral Park in Arizona. Another experience that he had that stands out in my mind is when he was on a mission. He was called on a mission in 1896. Now, he was married to Effie Dean Woolley. And do you want to hand me that picture? Maybe you can show that. This is a picture that we've inherited from his mission of the San Francisco mission. And President Nye was his mission president. When he first arrived, he felt impressed that he was to go and take the gospel to a man by the name of Sinclair. Mr. St. Clair, I've never been able to find his first name, but he always refers to him as Mr. St. Clair. And this St. Clair was an educated individual. He lectured a lot, and he had come from the East. And when he asked the mission president that he could go and talk to him, why they just kind of ignored him, but he persisted. Well, he ended up going and knocking on the door of this Mr. St. Clair, and when he opened the door, he was meeting with other people, but when he saw Elder Nixon, he dismissed everyone and he wanted to meet with him. And it turns out that this Mr. St. Clair had had a vision and had seen your James W. Nixon II in a dream. And he was converted to the gospel through this dream and through the administration of J.W. Nixon on his mission. As a result, when he came back to Utah, why his son St. Clair Nixon was born. A boy was born, and they named him after this first convert of J.W. Nixon in California. But when he was in California on this mission, he was given the gift of healing. He healed several people and converted several people through this gift of healing that he had. And but he tells in his mission, his autobiography about his mission, and it's a very faith-promoting experience to read it. Another instance in his life, this is before his mission, I should have told this before this missionary experience, is that his mother's sister, Senna Schultz Barton, was living in Salt Lake City, but she had come down to St. George to visit her sister. And he was in the process of taking her back to the terminal where she could catch the train back to Salt Lake. And they got off on a wrong road, and it was dark, and they were in a horse and buggy. And as they were approaching a precipice, a voice came to him and said, "Stop." Have you heard? And he stopped. He turned to his aunt. He says, "What did you say?" She says, "We haven't said anything for the last 15 minutes." And so he knew that there was something that he needed to investigate. And so he got out with the matches and looked. And if he had gone just a few feet further, they would have gone over an embankment, and they would probably have killed them all. So he says in his autobiography that he had learned at that time that it was important to listen to the Spirit and proceed according to what the Lord has to tell us.
Did he get that voice 2 times? I'm just curious.
I don't think so. I think it was just once.
Okay.
But he says I learned an important lesson in my life that I was to listen to the Spirit. He was also called on a mission back to Minnesota, and I found this out not too long ago, that his grandfather asked him to take care of him until he died. And so he came out twice to Utah, William Abraham. But it turns out, and then at this time, just before he was to go back to Minnesota to go on this mission, he received a call to go to Germany, I think it was. And we've got some letters there that tell of this call to go to a foreign mission. But he writes them and tells them this commitment that he had given his grandfather, that he would take care of him until he died. And so the first presidency reversed their call. So he didn't go to Europe on a mission.
Go.
This is James II. This is when he went to, this was before he went to California, he did go to California on the mission.
So how many missions did he go on?
I think he just went on this one to California. Well, and then the one back to Minnesota. This is a mission picture. You may want to know how I acquired all this. When Aunt Olive died, she, I guess, knowing that and Richard were probably the ones in the family that were carrying on the family history, she sent us a suitcase full of artifacts from her father, and this was in the suitcase. I think there were 2 suitcases, and a lot of that other material, letters and things, I have downstairs. But this was taken when he was on his mission to the California mission, and he first went to San Francisco. President Nye was his mission president, and they sent him down to the San Diego area, and he went east of San Diego. There's a mining area. I can't remember the name of the town, but he did some missionary work with families there, and that was where he administered to a young man who was expected to die, and he didn't die as a result of his administration. So he was known in his life as having a gift of healing. And that's when, I'm going to add this, that's why he was so disappointed when his daughter, Myrtle, was dying of appendicitis, that he raced home hoping that he could administer to her and help save her. But he was too late. He wasn't able to do it. And that was quite a disappointment to him in his life. It was hard for him to get over. But that's the mission picture of California Mission. This is a picture that I inherited of J.W. Nixon II when he was just a baby. He would have been, maybe 2 years old? 2 years old. Aunt Grace had this. And if you'll notice, there's a little curl in his hair. And if you'll notice in some of his other pictures that were taken when he was older, that curl is still in his hair. So you know that this is J.W. Nixon the second, when he was just about, I'd say he probably was about 2 years old there. He tells in his biography of his mother dressing him up in the clothes of his sister that was deceased, and how it really surprised his father when she sent him over to see his father, who was gleaning the fields across the street. And he just kind of went white. He really thought that his deceased daughter was coming to see him, until he found out otherwise. And then he kind of chuckled over the joke that his wife had played on him.